And they found an 135% elevated risk of autism among the vaccinated children. And it shocked them. They kept the study secret, and they manipulated it through 5 different iterations.
A little while ago, Bobby Kennedy was a marginal figure. Now, Bobby Kennedy is the head of the largest department in your government, the HHS. Here, Bobby Kennedy tells that other great libertarian, populist, conservative, I don't know how to describe Tucker other than that I love him. These are 2 men that I know and believe in, discussing the CDC covering up its own internal study that showed an 1,100% increase in autism from the hepatitis B vaccination. How valuable is a hepatitis B vaccination to your baby? How valuable is it if it increases the risk of autism by 1,100% according to an internal CDC study? Let's have a look at this conversation.
What you would do if you wanted to find the answer, which is to compare outcomes in a fully vaccinated group to health outcomes in an unvaccinated group. And CDC did that study in 1999. They brought in a team of scientists under a Belgian researcher named Thomas Verstraeten.
The aspect of Bobby Kennedy that I love most is when he says stuff like, they called in a Belgian researcher, like he's got access to such sort of esoteric information about Belgian researchers. If you ever spent any serious time listening to Bobby Kennedy, he's a man of true integrity. He's a man who walks a spiritual path. He's exactly the kind of leader we need.
And they looked at the data. They looked at children who had received the hepatitis vaccine within the first 30 days of life, and compare those children to children who had received the vaccine later or not at all. And they found an 135% elevated risk of autism among the vaccinated children. And it shocked them. They kept the study secret, and they manipulated it through 5 different iterations to try to bury the link. And, we know how they did it. They got rid of all the older children, essentially, and just had younger children who were too young to be diagnosed. And they stratified the data, and they did a lot of other tricks. And all of those studies were the subject of that kind of trickery.
Bobby Kennedy is a man of integrity and no small amount of genius. He's a kind of like the founding fathers, if you ask me, the kind of intrepid and brilliant man around whom nations can be built. And whilst I would not rescind my more general assertion that what we need is decentralization, in the process of achieving that, we're going to need great leaders. Now, Bobby Kennedy, since he's become head of the HHS, has appointed people like Dr. Oz, who's across the insurance, one of the huge and components and financial aspects of the HHS. He's another man that I admire deeply and admire. Marty Makary is now head of the FDA. The FDA used to be headed up by a guy called Scott Gottlieb, who I seem to recall looks a lot like Eddie Munster from the Munsters. Here, Scott Gottlieb complains that Bobby Kennedy is forcing vaccine manufacturers to remove aluminium from vaccines. Let me know in the comments and chat whether you think that might be a legitimate and benevolent advance and change within the vaccine industry. Let me know what you think about the suppression of that internal study that revealed an 1,100% increase. And let me know if you think the HHS is safe under the stewardship of Bobby Kennedy. Let's have a look at Scott Gottlieb, refugee from the Munsters, lamenting the sudden lack of aluminum, to say it how you guys say it, in vaccines.
There is a movement among the Secretary, Kennedy, and others in the anti-vax movement.
Do you see? Look at him. He looks like the peculiar wolf boy progeny of a vampire and a Frankenstein's monster.
To take alum out of vaccines. So alum it's an aluminum salt. It's used in about 7 different pediatric vaccines, including one by Pfizer, as an adjuvant. So it helps stimulate an immune response. So they want to force manufacturers, I believe, to reformulate those vaccines. That would be a major issue because this is a very safe ingredient. It's been used for 70 years.
You might be curious about what Scott Gottlieb did when he left the FDA that he headed up. Oh, he went and worked at Pfizer. I wonder if during his time as head of the FDA, he developed as well as brilliant medications, favorable relationships with big pharmacological companies like Pfizer. Let me know what you think about that in the comments and chat. And if this guy can head up the FDA, why don't we have, I don't know, Eddie Munster or the entire Adams family running other government departments?
There's really no alternative. And if they force manufacturers to have to reformulate all those pediatric vaccines, I think you'd see a lot of vaccines potentially come off the market because there is no good alternative.
Meaning that they would no longer be effective, they wouldn't stimulate the immune system?
There is no good, the other adjuvants that you could potentially use probably aren't as safe, but if you had to reformulate those vaccines, it would create a real dislocation in the market.
Let's see what Jimmy Dore says about this. Scott Gottlieb says if RFK Jr. forces vaccine manufacturers to remove their aluminium, I'm going to say it in my accent, aluminium adjuvants, you'd see a lot of vaccines potentially come off the market because there is no good alternative. What's wrong with injecting a baby with multiple doses of aluminium? The guy from Pfizer says it's great. Who cares if aluminium is a neurotoxin? And there are major studies linking aluminium in vaccines to asthma, SIDS, and autism. Whatever you do, don't do your own research. Well, why don't you let me know what you think about that in the comments and chat? Do you trust Secretary Kennedy and his new coterie, cadre of experts, Dr. Oz, Marty Makari, Jay Bhattacharya, men that I would say have been battle-tested and bulletproofed by adversity prior to government and now are hopefully running the HHS in accordance with the mandate they received from the electorate, and more importantly than that, with principle and with honour and integrity. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Thanks for watching the video. Have a look at this one over here, or join us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on Rumble.